What's going on, guys? It's Greg from East Coast Eyes, and today we have a full review of the newest head from Maverik, the Maverik Centrik. So they just introduced this head during the Final Four. They ran a really cool ad on ESPN2, a national broadcast, so that would really get it out there. Same kind of thing they did for the Optic. So this head actually releases on July 4th, but is available for pre-order now online. You can pick it up for $95. It comes in white, gold, black, red, royal, and gray, and is available in both high school and X-Spec. So with this head, I think Maverik really wanted to round out their total product offering. They had the Optic, which is meant for kind of a mid-low pocket and more meant for an attackman. They have the Tank, which is specifically meant for a defensive player, and so they really designed this one to be a head for a really powerful midi that plays both ends. So the most notable differences in this head are going to be the 3 struts on the sidewall and then some of the details on the inside. So obviously they went from the Optic, which had 2 struts, and the Tank, which had 4 struts, and found a good middle ground for their midfield head where it has 3 struts. So they moved them down a little bit and put 2 just to make this a little bit stiffer, and 1 at the top. So overall this makes a more rigid feeling head than the Optic, and so that's what they really wanted for midfield. They wanted to focus on players that are playing both offense and defense, both sides of the field. So this is a head that will be able to convert quickly from playing offense and still be stiff enough to play some defense with. So now moving into the look of the head and the overall face shape. The total weight of this head is 4.8 ounces, which is the exact same as the Optic, and that's kind of on the lighter end of heads. Anything under 5 ounces is usually a little bit on the lighter end. We measured the Brine King, one of the newer heads from Brine, and that weighs in at 5.2 ounces. So it's about 0.4 ounces lighter than the Brine King, which is in the noticeable range. You would pick them both up and be able to say this is definitely lighter and might make a little bit of a difference, but it's definitely more rigid than the Optic at the same weight, which is good. So they really they did that by doing these cutaways on the inside. So that's the most noticeable, besides the struts. New look factor. So you can see on the inside here they have the sidewall is all hollowed out on the struts and the top rail, and so this reduced some weight, but they did it in a strategic way to make the shape so that they don't sacrifice much strength, and so that's how you get more struts, more stability and stiffness, but also the same exact weight as the Optic. So same weight but a stiffer, stronger head. And then other than that, they have a couple small details that changed from the Optic. Still says Maverik on the inside and Centrik here, and then they cut away some of the holes inside the throat here and down by the bottom just to make it a little bit lighter and reduce the material where they didn't really need it, where the head was already plenty strong. It has the chrome Maverik jewel, Centrik ball stop. This is the high school version, so it says high school there, and then it has very nice face shape for a midfielder. As a midfielder, you probably don't want too aggressive of a pinch and flare, especially if you're going to be a player that's going to go from offense to defense. So you can see the face is very gradual, but it's nice and tight at the throat. This is, again, the high school version, so the X would be the 3 inches and would fit all those requirements. But nice gradual pinch and flare that goes right up about the middle of the head, which is great. I do wish that since they say that this head is meant for a mid-high pocket, that they had maybe gone up a little bit higher with the pinch just to lend itself more to that mid-high pocket. But it still works really well and is a nice well-rounded face shape. For the bottom rail, as opposed to the Optic, which has their level 2 bottom rail, this has a level 4 bottom rail. So they've shifted the deepest point of the head up a little bit, just barely past equilibrium, so that it would just push the pocket up a little bit higher in the head, making it easier to string a mid-high pocket, which we'll get into when we discuss the stringing. So for the stringing, this head was extremely easy to string. I love what Maverik is doing with their stringing setup, with their sidewall hole setup, and their top string hole setup. So you see they have 6 very well-sized top string holes, which are perfectly placed. It spaces the top string out very nicely so that you're not reaching or falling short, so you get nice even tension all the way around. They're plenty large for a double triangle top string, and they work really well. They have numerous string holes down the side. They go all the way from the top to the bottom, and I like their just basic round shape. That's probably my favorite shape for sidewall holes. The bottom rail is nice and pointed, so you're able to get your knots very tight, and they can sit very flush to the sidewall, which I like as well. The only thing I didn't like about the stringing, from the Optic, they had these larger holes up at the top that were meant for stringing your top string, where you'd want to loop it once or twice. I felt the Optic holes were too small and not shaped correctly to fit a string through 2 or 3 times, and they didn't change those at all, which is unfortunate. It still works. You can really jam the strings through if you have to, but it would be nice if it was just a little bit bigger. So that's just a small detail, but one thing I was really hoping they would improve upon from the optic. And the other thing that I thought was odd was on the optic they had 3 larger holes at the top, and for the Centrik they actually reduced it to 2, and I really do like having the 3, and it didn't end up being a big deal when actually stringing the head. It's just a small detail that I noted while stringing. So for the pocket, we strung this one up with sort of the mid to mid-high that it was intended, that would work really well for a midfielder who needs big power shooting down the alleys, and is also going to play defense and pick up some ground balls. A mid to mid-high pocket makes it much easier because the ball is going to fall into the deepest part of the pocket much more quickly. So you can see the pocket will sit mid-high and shift up a little bit, so when you go to crank down the alley, you're going to power that ball up into the mid-high section of the pocket and get a lot more power and whip that you need to pull it all the way across your body when you're shooting down the alley as a midfielder. So all in all, I really love the Maverik Centrik head. I think making a head that was meant for an offense and defensive midfielder is a really great idea. Now they have 3 very specific heads for very specific types of players, which I really like. $95. You're seeing a lot of heads come out more in the $105 and $110 range that are high-end heads, and I think this definitely competes on the same level as those heads at a lower price point, so I like that as well. So make sure you let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the Maverik Centrik, how you liked it, if you've gotten to try one out yet. Make sure to like it if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't, and have a great day.